I am Jennifer Foxworthy, and I am a domestic violence thriver. I came from a broken place. As a young girl, I was looking for love and acceptance in the wrong places, and I didn't feel pretty. My self-esteem was low, and I didn't know my worth. I was punched, slapped, and called names. I was lied to and missed all the warning signs. But today, I am happily married to my loving husband, Tom. I am a mother, an author, a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur, and I am your host of Living Unshackled on Purpose. Welcome back to another episode of Living Unshackled on Purpose. I am your host, Jennifer Foxworthy. I am grateful to be here today. I would like to introduce Pastor Marguerite Morris. But before we get into Pastor Marguerite Morris's story, I always want to give God the glory and invite the Holy Spirit here today. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for traveling mercy and grace. Thank you so much for your salvation, your love, and just watching over us. And I just ask that you just encourage the viewers to just understand the circumstances of this episode and to have the compassion and really look deep into what's going on. And I ask that you just give us the wisdom and the understanding to get through this episode. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Pastor Marguerite, how are you today?
I'm fine. Jennifer.
I am so grateful that you are here on Living Unshackled on Purpose. This has been, we've been trying to work this for quite some time.
Yes.
So thank you for taking the time to be here to bless this this show. And I really am interested in your story because it's a story like none other that I have interviewed before. I wanted to know a little bit about you, but then also your purpose of being here, your daughter.
Thank you. Well, first, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunities that you've afforded me to get my story out. And I guess I'd first like to kind of talk about Kathy and who she was. I first want to say that, Kathy was the daughter of pastors, leaders in the church. She was always brought up in the church. And she was a very beautiful girl. She was my only child. Yeah, a gift from God after 3 years of waiting. And I think I found out I was pregnant right after my spouse went on a remote assignment, as a matter of fact. And so she truly was the answer to prayer. She was a very intelligent girl, grasped on quickly. I remember one evening we were riding down the street, and she was about 2 or 3 years old. She's in the back seat, and she said, "Mommy, God is pretend." I was like, okay. And we quickly whisked her into private school and just wanted to grow her faith and have her get a good foundation of who God is. And I can recall her having prayer sessions at her cubby holes. Kathy would try to baptize her stuffed animals and little things of water outside in the hallway. She was always an overachiever and a very accomplished young lady. Even when she was in elementary school, teachers thought I was even writing her papers because she was just such an overachiever. In high school, she was quiet, but still a leader. She was a volunteer in the community working with homeless families.
Amazing.
When she went away to college, she went to the University of Maryland. There she still excelled. Matter of fact, she graduated from Riken High School with a 4.0 and an overall 3.88.
Phenomenal.
And that's phenomenal for her.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Always a well-accomplished girl.
Wow.
She shared her faith with others. She deeply carried her faith. And we were very proud of her. She impacted the lives of many people. And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to read, if it's okay, a quote from one of her friends that, after her passing, there was a quote. It says this. It says that her friend's name is Sade, and she wrote this to Kathy. She said, "Your laugh, your smile, your gentle essence are a few aspects that cannot be forgotten. You were the definition of a loyal friend, and how it hurts to see you leave this world so soon, only leaving me and the memories of you. our wonderful summer vacations, all the birthday celebrations, the sweet things that you would do. And she said she remembers that Kathy baked her a cake one time when she didn't have money for a gift, and that was Kathy. She excelled in whatever she did. She was just a remarkable, remarkable young lady.
But there was some deceit. I mean, Kathy, she has so much going for her, but that's her journey met some roadblocks, some tragic roadblocks.
Yes, and that's obviously that's what I'd like to talk about today. I want to talk about the essence of her character, who she was. She was a real person, a beautiful person with so much in life ahead of her. She did walk in her Christian values, and I think that going away to college, she was in school for 4 years, University of Maryland, and in her 4th year, I think around a year before graduating, she kind of met somebody that was outside of that Christian realm, and didn't turn out to be such a good person for her. And that's kind of the start of our journey. And I'm not sure where you want me to start in that as far as relaying the story. But in her last year, as a matter of fact, Katherine passed on just 2 weeks before graduating from the University of Maryland, with everything before her. She kind of met an abusive person, a controlling person, a not so good person. She fell in love with him. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but she fell in love with him, but on his part, it was more of unfortunately, a scam or a scheme for financial gain. And just seeing her journey and the transition of her life and her mind, we didn't know. We thought it was. If I back up a little bit, we thought that Kathy had a bad boyfriend.
Okay.
We didn't realize that the first time we met him, which was in August of 2011. That he'd actually gotten her to marry him without us knowing it. That whole journey has led us on a journey. And her father, God rest his soul, he died about a year after Kathy. But it's as leaders, and we're not exempt from the things of life.
True.
But this impacted us. And almost from the time it happened, I went into another place mother mode from the time the news came, because we saw the things that led up to it.
Right.
And we still tried to allow Kathy to be that adult and walk through her own thing, love and support her with whatever her choices were. But on the sideline, we could see some things that were starting to occur that weren't healthy, that were red flags.
Now, because this is definitely, Kathy was in an abusive relationship. She probably experienced verbal, was she isolated from you all?
One of the things is that with issues of abuse has many forms.
Yes.
And I've worked with victims of physical abuse, and it's mental and all those places. We know abuse can be financial, verbal, mental, and Katherine was a victim of those. And at some point doing this, because she was away at school, we didn't know everything was happening, but certainly what had started to occur was the isolation of her from her friends. But she also started to shut down a little bit, because when he persuaded her to do something that was against her family values, she now is carrying the guilt of interacting with her family and them seeing something start to deteriorate within her and not being able to pinpoint it. Because he persuaded her to marry him and not tell her parents. And so we're still seeing her every now and then and trying desperately to figure out, why has her countenance changed? Why is she losing weight? Why is she seemingly depressed, when in reality, even if this was a secret marriage, it should have been the happiest time of her life. And one of the other things I like to put out there is that we're talking now, as we explore and uncover things, I think education is about personalities and signs of abuse. Will help people recognize the badness of it. If we don't educate, and that was one of the things that I hadn't done. When Kathy went to school, Kathy was in a relationship, was a Christian relationship that they chose of their own, because she's an adult. Okay, and so we think that they're going to live happily ever after, but something happened, and then that child or that young adult doesn't realize that there are evil people out here.
Right.
And I think that on my part as a parent, if I'd done more to say, these are the signs to avoid before you get connected and emotionally. And I think when she began to see the pattern, she was already connected emotionally. And that's what a lot of victims do. They're hooked in emotionally. Yes. They see the signs, but they can't release it because they've fallen in love with someone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So at what point, as far as you're aware of, did that marriage start unraveling to where you're recognized? Did Kathy come to you and say, "Mom, I'm finding out some horrible things about this guy"?
Well, let me say this. I'm thinking it's a bad boyfriend, but my alert system is on and I'm listening. And I think that was key as well, because even when I met him for just the one time that I met him, I listened to his conversation because it was like red flags. It was red flags of a bad boyfriend. Okay, not realizing red flags of something else. And so I began to, in my intellect, listen and pay attention to what he was saying. But in our discovering as the parents what she was going through, we had to do it in a way that we didn't alienate her. Because when you come against the person that they love, they use that person that abuser can reverse that and use that as psychology. I remember clearly him threatening us a couple of times as things began to unfold, and we began to question, and I began to have conversations with him as we got more into it, and we found out that they were married, and we kind of knew what was going on. We had to allow her to discover it and guide her along that path.
Understood.
But he certainly used, even with us as adults, blackmail in the way of, we'll take her away. Because he knew he had that power to speak to her, and she'd go with him because she loved him.
Absolutely.
And that was mental on, we knew that was a warning to us. You keep pushing and you won't see your daughter again. And of course he probably wouldn't have done it because he really didn't want to be married to her.
Right.
But these are the tools that they use, and these are the warning signs that we could see. Absolutely. I say that Katherine Morris died from basic allowance for housing fraud. And people might look at me that know what that is and go, well, how is that? Well, as a result of that scam, she's no longer here with us. Yeah. Whether they alleged that she took her life or that she didn't take her life, it still was a result of a scam for money. Yes. And the lack of accountability with agencies and the confusion that comes in when the police versus the civilian police and the lack of coordination, all those things impacted this. And I'm just saying to the parents and family of loved ones, I remember Kathy, and I'm going to say this, Kathy was very intelligent. And a lot of the information that we have and discovered, Kathy had laid the foundation for that. Kathy was sharp. So this is not mommy going back and creating. I remember her calling me one night prior to her dying, and she had already began to look into things because she was suspect.
Okay.
And when the marriage fraud had come out, she was wise enough. She got into his Facebook page, and I remember saying to her one night, I says, Kathy, you really don't know how things are going to turn out. So you really kind of need to start documenting, just in case, so you have things. Right. And I think she was already doing that. She started capturing data. She captured financial reports. She has laid out a foundation to go after him, as if she knew she might not be here.
Lord Jesus.
And she laid that foundation very, very, very intelligently. As a matter of fact, she began to. See, the thing about an abuser, if you know that you're in a dangerous situation and you know that it might not turn out well, the best thing you can do is start creating, I think, being smart enough to create that energy and that information for those, your family members, your friends.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to tell them. You might not want them to know right now. If something happens to me, you need to question it, you need to go there. And she began to email documents into the folders, in school folders. And I'm looking at it on her computer, and I'm clicking on folders, and then there's these things that are coming up as if she knew she were being watched, or if she knew someone could get into her Facebook page, or into her emails. She began to save data, and she began to name that data. So today, with texting and all of those different things,
it's a trail.
You have a trail, and she was smart enough to do that.
And unfortunately, because the marriage was made, there was deceit.
Yes.
So he can get the marriage certificate. As the wife, she never received the benefits that was due to her as a military dependent.
And that's classic. He persuaded her to marry him. He takes that license that had fraudulent information on it back to his military base. He doesn't tell her because she doesn't know her rights or what she's supposed to get as his spouse. And he starts collecting money every month, which he did not pass on to her. She's at school. She's trying to maintain her apartment, her living. She's working 2 part-time jobs, carrying a full load of school, you know. And in the meantime, he's collecting money and pocketing it. And once this was discovered, then the verbal abuse got even worse because he wanted to control that.
Right.
And so she went through a lot, and his commanders as well, ordering him to take care of his spouse, and the war that went on that didn't last for a long time. And because it was within 6 months that she was dead of the marriage. But he worked that system, and to know that he could go back, and there should have been certain flags at the base that says he hasn't signed her up for any of the benefits, her ID card, her medical card, so many benefits that she should have gotten, that there was nothing in the system that flagged the military that says, hey, he's now collecting benefits, and there's no information on the spouse out here as to how he's been able to get those benefits. So that's one of the loopholes that we want to touch base on. And my Katherine, as we explore a little more about SGLI, my Katherine is not the only victim. It's because we're talking about BAH fraud. Right. We haven't gotten to the insurance, the SGLI insurance payout that this person collected for all that he did, because the military wouldn't charge him with fraud in this. He collected $100,000 to death. And he's not the only one. It's a pattern that men and women are dying over this SGLI insurance.
You know, you bring up a great point. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. But I think that's key as to the other piece of the journey that you're on as a mother, the surviving mother, in trying to find answers to your daughter's death and get that accountability. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, and I'm just so grateful to have you here, Pastor. No more fear. No more shame. No more doubt. Low self-esteem. Resentment. I am releasing the shackles. I am taking my identity back. I am taking my family back. I am taking my career back. It is a new day. I am releasing the shackles. I am Jennifer Foxworthy. This is Living Unshackled on Purpose. Join me as we take a 360-degree perspective on how to release the shackles in your life, personally and professionally. Welcome back to Living Unshackled on Purpose. I am your host, Jennifer Foxworthy. Welcome back. We took a commercial break. We're with Pastor Marguerite Morris. She was explaining her journey of a mother who survived her daughter in such a tragic death that she experienced, Kathy. Yes. And Pastor, you were telling us how she met this gentleman and was experiencing abuse, the warning signs, the red flags that you realized, but you knew that Kathy was on a journey as a woman, but she was experiencing that guilt, the shame, the depression, and everything. Now, she was gone too soon. Yes.
For all that we've already said, what this culminated in was that on May the 6th, 2012, Kathy's body was found at Arundel Mills Mall. Kathy died from carbon monoxide poisoning from 2 charcoal grills that were lit in her car. And it sounds like it's not complicated, but it is, because they allege suicide, we allege it's not suicide. We've had investigators from around the country that have lent themselves pro bono, and there's just a lot of evidence that may not have been what happened. It's very suspect, because in that basic allowance for housing fraud, there's also the element that she was worth $100,000 dead. And I remember in April when I realized that everything was uncovered and he's got to give her this money now, that she was of no value to him. Just that fleeting thing that a mom feels. And so what came to light was that, number one, this gentleman wound up getting $100,000 in life insurance for someone that he fraudulently married. And the sad thing about it, there were other soldiers involved, the civilian police, the military police, but no one was ever really held accountable. And the investigation really never happened in reference to what happened with Kathy. Again, she was a victim of marriage fraud by a soldier. He married her to obtain a housing allowance, And many of our allegations to date have not been investigated. In our thoughts, she was a victim of friendly fire. And we found now that there are others that are dying the same way.
Wow.
And we're just pushing. So the investigation is what I'd like to talk about, and how as a mom, I've had to do that. You know, you're talking about getting in a car and driving somewhere. I used to be afraid to go, but now I'll go into his territory. We're talking about reviewing the death scene, doing my own depositions. We're talking about all of that was key to uncover it, and still pressing as to what happened with Katherine Morris. Knowledge is power. Yes, it's a painful journey, but when you're fighting a battle, I guess it is like a soldier. As long as you're in the battle, you're fine. You know, your adrenaline's going, you're not getting tired, you can handle it, you can do it. It's when that battle ceases that you begin to feel and react. So I've been in mommy protect mode. And perhaps now I feel like I never really, have dealt with daddy's death because I'm still in daughter's death, but it's because of the battle. So I want to share with the viewers that, number one, knowledge is power.
Yes.
And you have to understand that when circumstances happen, the child or that person that didn't survive is not only a victim, but those of us that remain. And it's important that they know how to take certain steps. And in Kathy's case, this $100,000 with insurance, he was able to get it because the military wouldn't charge him with fraud. They felt it was easier to get rid of the soldier.
Right.
We had to walk through that whole battle, and I won't get into the intricate details. We want to talk about ways to look at this. But you have that, and then you have the civilian police that didn't know how to handle it. And there wasn't a coordination of services to make sure that this doesn't happen to someone else.
Right.
That's one of the things. There was so much, but I'm just encouraging families because many abusers, Jennifer, are cowards. And I say that I'm moving right through my notes now.
Yes.
And a perfect example, and I would encourage people, with Kathy, her brothers were away out of the state. Dad was very, he's a quiet person. I think abusers are cowards, and if people show up, and I'm not saying they have to say anything, but if they know there's another man or strong person involved, they will not push that issue. They'll run. They're looking for someone that is vulnerable, that they can do it, and they're not going to get any repercussions.
You're absolutely right.
So families, if you don't mind me saying, they need to be more of their presence shown if you're suspecting abuse. Really. And I think that's one of the things that'll be instrumental in helping.
Great point.
Thank you. And then I wanted to say, if it's okay, you asked me about, we go back to the BAH and what we're trying to do in her memory. One, there's a law out there. Two, the Katherine Morris Military Spouse Protection Act. That's what we're trying to get support for and do.
Okay.
We have coming up a brunch, and this will be our second annual brunch about that. It's about bringing awareness to this. And again, as I wrote this and penned my notes for you and went on the internet, and then I get to this site that lists and that says that this is a common practice for the SGLI insurance, that people are being murdered over in the military. And so we need things that will have a greater level of accountability.
Yes.
And that's what it's about. It's about saying to the military, there's certain flags, which I won't get into because we don't have time, that we should have looked for. And there's certain responses that the military and things the military can put in place going forward so that we can hold people accountable.
This tragic situation, what the devil had to destroy, and God always turns it around for the good.
Absolutely.
And it's hard for us to understand, but we can't lean on our own understanding. But you have an amazing support system, and you're carrying through, you're trudging along. You're an amazing woman of God. I love you dearly. And I want you, it's my prayer that you get the answers that you need and deserve. No parent should ever have to experience this, but through your journey is bringing to light. So when we see, monies that are being exploited and lives being taken, we need to genuinely look into that. The shackles, or what would you say to the parents, and then how can we release the shackles?
I would say to the parents to again take note, and really you have to have do your own homework. And if it doesn't feel right, trust your instincts.
Gotcha.
Trust your instincts.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have to do these things in a way that you don't alienate, because when you start finding out facts, again, you can't just sometimes go to your young people or your other people that are in that situation, because it'll make them back up.
Right.
But be creative and use wisdom,
Yes.
so that they find out on their own. Guide them. And one of the things that we told Kathy along the way, it doesn't matter what your decisions are. We love you, and we're going to stand by you either way. Even
That's
though we're
so
praying,
important.
it's bad, get away from him. We want that person to know we are here for you,
That's
and we love you. And you can't say that enough, because they will reach out. They will reach out.
And I think, to sum everything up, releasing that shackle of guilt,
Yes.
shame,
Yes.
feeling isolated, keeping everything to ourselves because we don't want anybody to know what horrible circumstances we got ourselves into, for trusting and loving. There's nothing wrong with trusting and loving. So I know that there is someone watching this episode, and I pray that it touches your heart, that if you are experiencing domestic violence, abuse of any kind, that your family still loves you. They want you around. They need you healthy and happy. Get the help that you need and deserve. There's resources out there. Pastor Marguerite Morris is a wealth of information. She has been on an extraordinary journey. And I know that it's not over, but she has made great strides. And Pastor, your website again.
It's for kathysake.com. That's for kathysake.com. 2 S's.
So check that out yourselves, and it's very detailed. You've done extraordinary work.
Thank you.
And we want you to release the shackles. Release the shackles of abuse. Release the shackles of guilt and shame. And know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. This is Living Unshackled on Purpose. I am your host, Jennifer Foxworthy. This is my amazing guest, Pastor Marguerite Morris, with the Kathy Morris Foundation.
Katherine Morris Military Spouse Protection Act.
Yes. Say that one more time.
We're looking for support in the Katherine Morris Military Spouse Protection Act.
Yes. So please, if this touches your heart, get in touch with Pastor Marguerite Morris and support her cause. We have to close the loopholes.